Hello and welcome to the video on compound interest. Now what we're going to discuss first of all is what actually is interest to begin with. Now it's in a financial sense we're talking about interest, okay? So usually when you keep money with a bank, they kind of give you a little reward for keeping it with them, and that is in the form of interest. So you get extra money back based on how much money you have kept with them in the first place. So that's the kind of problems we're going to be dealing with. People keeping money with banks, and you've got to calculate the interest they would receive on their savings and so on. Alright, so how does it work? Well, if I was to keep £20 with a bank, and let's keep the interest rate nice and simple, let's make it 25%. If I was to keep £20 with a bank at a rate of 25% per year, that means that at the end of the year I would have not £20 but £25. Alright? Because 5 is 25% of 20, it's a quarter of 20, so I would get this extra fiver from the bank, so my total savings now would be £25. So that's how interest works. So the bank have given me 25% of my savings, so they've slapped another fiver on top of that, so I've now got £25 when I started with £20, and that was my little reward for keeping my £20 with that bank. Okay, so unfortunately for people who save money, the interest rates are never usually as high as 25%, they're usually a lot lower than that, but we're going to look and see how we use percentages or knowledge of percentages to calculate compound interest. Alright, now look at this problem here. So Callum invests £1,200 in a bank account that pays 6.5% PA interest, okay? PA means per annum. If any of you ever get an annual for Christmas, alright, per annum means per year. So 6.5% per year interest. Calculate the balance in Callum's account after 3 years. So we're going to have to look and see in 3 years what's going to be the balance in his account. Now, compound interest is special because what it does is it builds on each year's previous value. Okay, so he starts off with £1,200, then we're going to get 6.5% interest on top of that, and then we're going to take 6.5% of that new balance and work that out, put that onto it, and then it's going to keep adding 6.5% of the balance in the account at the end of each year. Alright, so it's a little bit of a complicated and a longer sum, but we're going to look at how we do that just now. Okay, so make sure that you've copied all this down into your notes and that you copy down what I'm going to write really carefully, okay, because it's a lot of figures that are going on at the one time, so just pay attention and try and follow along. Remember to rewind me if you want, and you can see little bits again if you're not sure of what I've done. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out how much interest is going to be due at the end of 1 year. So remember, PA stands for per annum, so that's 6.5% of the £1,200 that he starts with is going to be his at the end of the year as well. Alright, so first thing we do then is we say, we work out 6.5% of 1,200, and we should all be good at that now. Remember, we do 6.5 divided by 100 times 1,200, and that gives us £78. Okay, so he's got £78 interest as well as his 1,200. So his balance, remember balance is what's in the account at the end, okay, is going to be 1,200 plus 78 is just equal to 1,278. So this is at the end of year 1. So after 1 year, Callum's got £1,278 in his account when he started off with £1,200. Okay, and that extra £78 is interest. Now, this is where compound interest really works. Okay, so the next year, in year 2, it's not going to be 6.5% of 1,200 because he's not got that anymore. He's now got £1,278. So it's going to be 6.5% of this figure that we're going to add on this time. So the next step in the calculation is we do 6.5% of 1,278 this time. Okay, so remember again, it's 6.5 divided by 100 times 1,278, and that will give us £83 and 7 pence. So that's the interest for the second year. So we add that on to his amount at the end of the first year. So again, that's 1,278 plus £83.07 gives us £1,361.07. That is after 2 years. So after 2 years, his balance is £1,361.07. Okay? After 2 years. Did I say 3 there? After 2 years, his balance is £1,361.07. So just get that clear, okay? So after the first year, that's his balance. After the second year, that's his balance. And it's because of 6.5% adding on every time. Right, now the question asks us for the balance in Callum's account after 3 years. So we're going to do the same calculation one more time. Alright, so this time it's 6.5% of £1,361.07. That gives us £88.47 this time. So you'll notice, because his balance in his account's getting a little bit more every time, so is the interest getting a little bit more every time. So the more he keeps in the account, the more interest he receives. Okay? So £88.47, and all we've got to do now is we add that on to our previous year's balance, giving us a final answer of £1,449.54, and that is at the end of year 3. Alright, so that's how we do all the calculations. Remember, just at the very end, we have to write our answer in a little sentence. Squeeze it in there at the end. Okay, so Callum's balance after 3 years is £1,449.54. Nice and simple, nothing too complicated. I'm not looking for an essay. All I'm looking for here, this is quite important, is that you've understood the question. Okay, so the question's been asked of you, it's quite complex, and you've got to show at the end that you understand what the question's asked you, and you've used your maths to work out the answer mathematically. But you've not just left a lot of numbers on the page, you've actually made sense of it. Okay, so it's like you've been the maths expert, somebody's came to you with this question, and you've got to go back and actually tell them the answer that you've understood the question as well. Okay, so just go through this one more time, alright? So it's compound interest, so it's building on each previous year's balance. Okay, so it's 6.5% of the balance the last year. So 6.5% of 1,200 is £78, and we add that on to our what's in the account, which is £1,200. 1,200 plus 78 is 1,278. We do that again, but it's 6.5%, 1,278. Then add it on here. Then it's 6.5% of 1,361.07. And then we add that on again to get a final answer at the end of the third year. Okay? So I hope that's showed you the kind of basic idea of question for compound interest, and kind of giving you a little bit of an insight into what interest is. We're going to look at this in class in a lot more detail than is up here, okay? But the basic maths will stay the same, so you're just basically working out percentages and doing adding sums, right? So the maths isn't that hard, because you'll have a calculator and everything, so the maths itself isn't so difficult. It's really the understanding of the question, so that's what we're trying to get really, really good, alright? So make sure as well, remember that if the question's in a sentence, that you're answering in a sentence, alright? I hope you've got all this copied into your notes. Remember, rewind if you're not sure, and make sure that's copied nice and neatly, because that's going to be like your model solution for working in class, okay? Alright, so thank you very much for listening, guys.